Let's talk about Muammar Gaddafi, the former leader of Libya. He made this huge, powerful promise to his people. But when you look at his legacy, well, it's defined by a deep and really troubling paradox. Today, we're going to dig right into that contradiction, the massive gap between his revolutionary ideals and a pretty brutal reality. We're going to start with Gaddafi's own words. He said, "Power, wealth, and weapons must be in the hands of the people." I mean, wow, it's an incredibly compelling populist idea, right? It speaks directly to empowerment, to revolution, this promise to completely change who holds the power in a country. It's a powerful ideal, for sure, no doubt about that. But it forces us to ask the most important question of all. What did this grand promise actually look like during his decades of rule? What did it mean in practice? To answer that, we have to look past all the slogans and really examine the machinery of his state. And this brings us to the dictator's reality. Gaddafi's role is best understood through a specific political idea, the revolutionary dictatorship. Now, this isn't just your typical dictatorship. It's a system where the leader gets to have absolute authority because they claim to be the true voice of the people's revolution. So, in short, the revolutionary part is used to justify the dictatorship part. And this creates a fundamental disconnect right from the start. The promise was all about giving power away. But the reality of a revolutionary dictatorship is the complete opposite. Power isn't given away. It's centralized and held onto through the leader's absolute control.
So you might be wondering, how does a regime maintain that kind of control, especially while claiming to be all about the people? Well, it relies on some very specific methods of control.
A key method is just widespread repression. See, to maintain absolute power, you simply cannot allow other voices to exist. It's just not possible. This means systematically crushing any and all political opposition. In practice, that meant outlawing rival parties, controlling all the media, and arresting anyone who publicly disagreed with the regime. You do all that to make sure no one can challenge the one and only narrative.
And this can escalate into outright terror campaigns. This goes way beyond just silencing opponents. The goal here is to instill a deep-seated fear throughout the entire population. Think of things like televised show trials or secret police making neighbors afraid to even trust each other. By making the consequences of dissent super severe and very public, these terror campaigns enforce compliance not just from activists, but from everyone. Okay, so we've seen the populist promise, and we've seen the brutal methods used to maintain power. This brings us full circle, right back to the central contradiction at the heart of this story, the Gaddafi paradox.
Let's go back to where we started. Power, wealth, and weapons must be in the hands of the people. Knowing what we know now about the reliance on repression and terror, those words feel entirely different, don't they? That gap between the rhetoric and the reality becomes pretty much impossible to ignore.
And here is the paradox, laid bare. On one side of the scale, you have the ideal he stated, a nation where all the power supposedly belongs to its citizens. But on the other side, you have the governing reality, a dictatorship that could only keep itself going through repression and terror. The two are just fundamentally incompatible. And this all brings us to a final, really critical question that echoes far beyond any one country or any single leader. When those in power promise to give it all to the people, we have to always ask, who truly ends up holding it?